We all know them. We've probably all used them. But can you make a serious piece of art with crayons? Only crayons. Now, I know this is true because I've seen some other YouTubers do it, such as Super Ray Dizzle. She did a portrait with crayons and it turned out amazing. And then we have Black Bean did it. His channel is amazing. I think he's hilarious. So he also did a portrait in his style and it turned out awesome. And most recently I saw a Little Star Nerd do a portrait. And I really liked how hers turned out too. So they can make a good piece of art. Can I make a good piece of art with crayons? That is the question. So let's get started and find out. Okay, so I started with the sky. I'm doing a landscape, by the way. And so I picked out my sunspot like I usually do and just went for it. So I did use the white crayon in the middle, which doesn't make any difference because it's white. But I started super light and just went out from the middle, adding color. And like I said, trying to keep my pressure on the paper super light. Because I did not know how many layers of crayon you could get on paper, which is not very many. It's like 2, maybe 3 layers before the paper just won't take anymore. So here I'm adding some distant trees, trying to keep it light again. I got the Colors of the World crayons because I originally thought maybe I would try a portrait, but then decided to do a landscape at the last minute. But all the browns in the Colors of the World worked good for trees and grasses and stuff too, so that worked out. My 6-year-old is coloring her own picture next to me. So when you see movement over to the side, that's her. And then just making some trees closer to the foreground here and making sure that I grabbed a darker brown so I could portray them as being closer to the front. And then I did find that I could not achieve the colors I wanted in this picture with crayons because they're so cheap, they don't have the right amount of pigment to get the colors I was thinking in my head. So it'd been a long time since I had used crayons, so I guess I had forgotten that they're not as vibrant as I thought. And the more I used these, the more it made me want to use my Caran d'Ache Neo Color 2 crayons that I have. They're not really crayons, they're more like oil pastels, but I kept feeling like I could layer more with these like I can with those. And you just can't, and you definitely can't put light colors over dark the way you can with the Neo colors. So that was a struggle. And so the further I got into working on this, I started to not like it. And I think that's just mostly due to I couldn't get the colors right that I wanted, like I said, but I was even considering redoing it, but then I decided that I just didn't have time for that, so I just kept going, because you're just not gonna like every piece of art that you make. so sometimes you just gotta keep pushing through and see what happens. And then I decided that the background needed a waterfall. And then here, there was some lily pads I wanted to put in the water. And I did it just wrong. Like, I think the perspective is off from where you're looking at it to what they should look like. So, that's something I would redo if I could, but I kind of just went with what was in there. Because crayons, you can kind of scratch them off a little bit, but even when you color over what you've already scratched off, it's still there, so I just kept it in and kept going. And I forgot all the specks of like crayon dust it makes too, so that was also kind of annoying. And the water. I really struggled with the water because I wanted it to be this bright, vibrant blue, and there was just no way to get that with crayons anyway, so. The other thing I missed about the Caran d'Ache Neocolor versus the crayons is the crayons leave so much white in the paper, and I couldn't get a good like blended look like I can with the other ones, so I missed that too. It had just been so long since I used crayons that I forgot about what they were like. So at this point I was really not liking my drawing, but I just kept going, and my son ended up coming in and telling me how amazing it was, and so I thought, well, at least somebody likes it. But actually, the more I look at it, the more I think, it's not that bad. So it's not like my favorite thing I've ever created, but for using crayons, it was alright. I do think maybe a portrait would have been a better choice for these crayons. So maybe I'll revisit that in the future and try and do a portrait with them instead. But I was able to layer some yellow there on at the end to create kind of a glow. And there I did use a white paint pen just to do the final highlights. That's the one thing I used that was not a crayon. But so that's my crayon drawing. Like I said, it's not my favorite, but it turned out okay, so thank you for watching and checking this out. Check out my channel, look at my other videos, like and subscribe, and I will see everyone next week.